What's mission prep? Tell me what that's all about.
Today we have Alex Alderman. He runs Iron Infidel, and we will let him tell you guys all about what that is if you don't already know. So if you don't mind, tell us kind of who you are, your background a little bit, and tell us a little about Iron Infidel.
Of course. First of all, thank you guys for allowing me onto your podcast. I appreciate it. My name is Alex Alderman. I'm a co-owner of Iron Infidel. We're a fitness brand. We create content on Instagram, YouTube. That's kind of just not just specific fitness oriented. I like to kind of capture everything: fitness, firearms, all the different hobbies I like to participate in. Prior police officer for 12 years, 4 years SWAT. And I'm just trying this new thing, trying to find my way as a business owner.
Beautiful. Yeah. How long ago did Iron Infidel start? How long? Because you've got a pretty good following on social media. Like, how long did that take to build up?
Yeah. So if you want, I can just kind of give you the Reader's Digest of how it all unfolded.
Totes.
I started an Instagram page, not Iron Infidel, when I was on the SWAT team. My brother simultaneously created this brand. He's the founder of the brand Iron Infidel. And he's just not interested in doing the social media thing, but I was doing quite well on my other profile. I got it up to like 20,000. So he reached out to me and asked if I could come and basically partner up with him on Iron and take over that social media, which was in July of 2020. So just over a year, 13 months. I took over that Instagram and took it from 5,000 to 50, a little over 50,000. And we built the YouTube from nothing to 30,000 within the course of a year. But it's been a challenge and a learning experience for sure.
Wow. It is, like we're trying to do the same thing just with the podcast in general and our social media, because that helps promote it. Mm-hmm. And it's a weird world, especially the social media end, on like trying to figure out how to promote and how to get people aware of what you're doing. That's interesting.
Yeah. And the one thing I said from the get-go was it's such a saturated market, right? Every business is on Instagram, specifically, everything. And everybody's putting pictures of their product and really just blasting their product out there. I wanted to kind of take a different approach and take things that I learned from other people, because what led me to get into social media was I was a consumer of social media. I watched YouTube. I didn't watch TV, and I followed all of these guys, and I wanted to create content that was worthwhile. It's not just promoting a product, because in 2021, if you're creating a brand or a podcast or whatever, it's difficult to set yourself apart. So you got to kind of take a different angle about it. So that's what we've been trying to do, is just take the angle that we will produce good content, quality content, whether it's entertaining or educational, and infuse some of that branding in there. And so far it's been working.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, what you said, 50,000 followers on your Instagram. You're doing something right. You got that many people paying attention to what you're doing,
I'm just winging it, man. I don't really know what I'm doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, usually, you see big businesses maybe are at that level, or people just show their buttholes, right? That's and you're not doing that. So, I mean,
I got close. I almost did.
we're about to start through our phone. Yeah. No, it's a weird world, like Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. Like, we have a social media page. Every social media out there, pretty much, we have one for this podcast, and trying to figure out, because they all work a little different too, which is kind of weird. I'm most comfortable with like Instagram, just because it's more user friendly, I think. But it's weird, because you'll see a spike, numbers will go up, and then all of a sudden it'll just like plateau for a while. It's like, okay, what are we doing wrong? That's a lot of time and energy you got to put into something that really doesn't matter that much. You know what I mean? Social media, it's fucking. We've talked about that a lot in here. It's not real,
right?
And exactly,
I think that kind of helps with what you're doing, being real on social media, showing what you guys are doing, and that helps a ton, I'm sure.
Yeah. Social media, it's like you mentioned, every platform is different, and learning the intricacies of every platform, takes time in and of itself. YouTube, it is a whole different animal than Instagram, and Instagram is a whole different animal than TikTok, which we started yesterday. So now I have to learn that.
You better start dancing.
I know, right? I need to learn, like I said, show the butthole.
Yep.
Yeah.
But everything's different. So you have to really learn what content that audience appreciates, and then cater your content towards that. Because from what I've found, and maybe you guys have had a different experience, but the YouTube audience doesn't translate to an Instagram audience.
Mm-mm.
And, vice versa. It doesn't. Those are our pretty much unique audiences. Everyone kind of has their one platform.
Yeah. Well, it's the same also, like when it comes to just the podcast in general. You have just the pure audio downloads, Spotify, Apple, all that, versus we do put this up on YouTube, and the numbers just don't match at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like our views on YouTube are getting sometimes 7 views, sometimes 30 views, sometimes 300 views. It just depends on who the guest is. But our just audio platform, it's pretty consistent, and it keeps growing and going the direction we want it to go. But it's by far bigger than our YouTube. And I think that's also because I think video quality matters on YouTube, obviously. And we have an okay camera, but it's not the best. We have one camera, not multiple angles, all that. So I know that matters. It's more appealing to the eye. But
yeah.
And we've released a couple of these podcasts, last 2 had no video. We just did the audio and put a picture up, and they got more views than the one before that had a video. So it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to work this.
Yeah.
It's hard to predict. And you've probably found that although you've grown one platform, when you try and funnel them over to the other platform, it just isn't successful.
For sure. Yeah. And it's a weird deal. And I mean, especially with a thing like a podcast, I mean, that's how you succeed, is have people listening and watching. So it's, you want it to happen. But like I said, putting all that attention into something like social media, it's like, man, I wish I could just hire somebody to do that.
You and me,
so,
you and me both.
So we could just concentrate on this part of it, because this is the important part. We're getting the real conversation out there. But yeah, it's a crazy thing. So I guess let's go back about your background in SWAT. How long have you been an officer? All that good stuff.
So I joined law enforcement when I was 20, turned 21 on graduation day. I'm 33 now. Went through a few departments, ultimately landed at my last department in 2015. And I spent from 2015 to July of 2020 there, spent 4 of that on a SWAT team. So basically my whole adult life, until I recently switched from full-time to reserve so I could pursue this business, which I'm still a reserve now, but as a reserve, you don't really, they don't allow you to be on the SWAT team anymore.
Gotcha. And is there any rules, like with your departments you've worked with, on what you're allowed to put out there, like on social media and stuff like that? Because I know some departments have, we have a couple good friends that are officers here where we live, and we asked one of them, like, hey, we want to get you on. Let's, like, this was back during the heat of all the stuff that went on last year with officers and all that. And we're like, we want to talk to some good cops. Like, let's let people hear them. And she's like, I can't do it. I tried to get permission. It's not happening.
Yeah. And every department's different. I mean, every department has different policies, and every department enforces them differently. My department, when I started my first Instagram page, when they found out, because I think they found out early on, but, kind of just, they liked me. So they kind of swept it under the rug when I had very low following. But then when it started growing to, into the thousands, they tried to put a kibosh to it, made me take down all the content, which kind of decimated the profile at the time, but we were able to kind of adapt and figure it out. But it is difficult when you are active law enforcement. There's policies and rules that you can't, talk about certain things, and really just social media in general is frowned upon, not only from command staff, but also just the guys you're around. You know how it is when you're around a bunch of guys and you're putting out social media content, they're giving their opinions.
That is kind of odd. Like, especially something like a podcast where we get pretty fucking personal sometimes. And we've talked about this on here and off of mic, how there's people in our real lives that listen to this. And it's like, man, do I really want them knowing that? Because it's a little different when it's all these people that listen that don't know us, because they're not going to, what are they going to, I don't see them. They're not going to say anything to me. But I don't know. I've had a lot of support from even people I know in the real world that listen to every episode we do. But it does make you think about what you say a little bit. Especially, like, I know, like, my boss could hear this or whatever, from my day job. It's odd.
I think that's the hardest thing to overcome with social media, is everybody that I know is going to be listening to this. So whatever their preconceived opinions of you are before, when they're watching all this content that you're creating, that could completely change, and could be judging you. At least that's a thought process that I kind of had. And I think everybody kind of has that insecurity, especially when you first get started. But then as time passes, it kind of just subsides.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And with social media in general, it's really hard to, like obviously you've done really well at it, but it's hard to kind of appeal to everybody. But so it's like you have to realize you can't just appeal to everybody. Some people really like that vulgar aesthetic, realm where it's just like nothing is really real. It's just all the aesthetic, and nothing's deep, And then it's like, well, if we're going to apply, some sort of fitness towards people, how can we do this? We're not making people feel envious or like shit. You know what I mean? Like, hey, motherfucker, were you being lazy today? Here's what we're doing, and like we're all jacked and tan and got fucking veins on our asses, right? like it's like, how can we be approachable and be inspiring for people and be like, hey, we suffer every day too, but we got to get up and we got to pick the fucking hammer up, right?
Yeah.
And that's really important, to not just be that vulgar aesthetic, but be more the ethical driving force, like we're just like everybody else. Everybody has to start somewhere. And, just to inspire people and be real with them, just being real is the most cool thing you can do. Just being genuine versus being completely fake on there, And I honestly, I've gone through your page and it seems a lot more genuine, I mean, it's not being a bunch of bros throwing shit in people's faces,
Well, and even a little bit of that's okay, but if that's all somebody's doing, that's going to turn off most people, I think.
Right.
Yeah, I think social media, I mean, people are smart enough to recognize when somebody's being fake or it's all a facade. And, there's kind of two ways to approach social media, is to do it that way, where everything's pretty, you hide all of your flaws, hide everything that goes wrong, or you could just be honest about it, honest about your background, honest about your skill set, honest about your fitness level, whatever it is that you're trying to, push onto the viewer. And I think that's appreciated the most. I just think that's what people like, at least the majority of them. You're not going to appeal to everybody.
No. I also think like what you're doing, having a page like you have, is super important for people. Like, this is another thing we've talked about a lot. Like myself, I've been a fat guy my whole life. Seeing a page like yours where guys are in there getting after it, kicking ass, it's like, okay, that's motivation right there. That makes me want to go and do something. And there's a lot of people out there who maybe in their real life don't have anybody to show them, this is what you can do to maybe be successful, to be more fit, to be more active. And then they can go on Instagram, find your page and see, look at these guys kicking ass. Maybe if I do something they're doing, that'll lead me in the right direction. And the motivation part, and there's a lot of motivational fitness Instagram pages. Some of those guys are complete jackasses, if you ask me, just the way they put it out there, like like the disingenuine, like you were just talking about. But then you get like what you guys are doing, it's real world stuff. You guys are grappling, you're shooting, you're lifting, you're doing real life stuff. And it's not all about like, look how big my biceps are,
Yeah, it's the way I look at it is like this. And I look at it like this for pretty much anything. I'm not competing against anybody else, and the viewers shouldn't be competing against anybody else or me. It's compete against yourself, try and be a better version of yourself, and I go on there and get my ass kicked by Daniel Serafian all the time. I'm never going to beat that guy in a fight, and, but I put it up there because it's real. Like, I'll go in there and train with him and lose, and I'm not near on his level, but that's honest, it's genuine. And I'm just personally trying to grow. There's a lot of areas I need to grow. I'm not the fittest guy. I'm certainly not the best shooter, certainly not the best fighter. But that's kind of just the approach we're taking to it. Go and just find ways to improve yourself.
Yeah. I think it's it's been a very modern way of being like jack of all trades. You're just like a Renaissance man. Like, we have to problem solve our way through jiu-jitsu, right? Or striking, or how to learn firearms. Because a lot of people, it's hard. You have to understand, a lot of people, are coming from maybe areas where they grew up because their parents hated guns. When you should just not hate anybody, but dislike people who handle guns poorly, right? There's nothing wrong with a gun. It's the fucking people. It always has been people. Fix the individual, and then you fix people behind guns, right?
Right.
but we don't want to fix the individuals because that takes hard work. And oh my God, if we told people the hard truth that they're lazy and they lack morals and ethics, and we have to fix them, that's hard. So let's just say guns are bad, right? Like, but it's nice to be this Renaissance man of shooting, fighting, working out, putting your mind and using those skills and those hard work you put into other things. Like, man, if I put this amount of effort into working on my house or my vehicle, I don't have to pay someone else to do it. It's just I have to sit down and learn this know-how and build myself up. So it applies to everything. Like everything you guys do applies to everything else. And I think people recognizing that will make their whole lives better. Absolutely. So
yeah, definitely. And I love the word Renaissance man that you used there, because that's really the approach I try to take to it. To be the best in the world at anything, or the top 1%, you have to dedicate your entire life to that. But when you dedicate your entire life to one thing, it comes at the expense of other things, right? Absolutely. So you can be better than 95% of people with a certain amount of effort, but to be better than that extra 5%, that takes a whole lot more time. For me, I'm not a competition shooter. I'm not a competition lifter. I would rather take that time to get good at other things. So I could be proficient in multiple areas. Yeah, I'm not going to be the best at anything, but I'm not trying to be a competitive shooter or lifter. I'm just trying to do things to make myself better for everyday life.
Yeah, kind of a jack of all trades. And I think that's an important quality in a person, is being able to kind of adjust and adapt and kind of take on anything that's thrown at you. And whether that's a fight, or if you're going out shooting, or if it's being a good dad. Like there's a lot of things in life. And I'm sure none of us are the best dad in the world. That's impossible. But I'm sure we all try our fucking best to be that. Like you told me, you have to get your kid to a class after this, and I get that because I'm a dad. And that's something with this podcast we've tried to, and I'm sure you see this with putting as much energy as you do into what you're doing, trying to balance the family and what you're doing. You're trying to build something, and that's been a battle for both of us. We're trying to give your wife what she needs, give the kids what they need, and then also be successful at what we're trying to build here. And I think that takes a person who can kind of do a little bit of everything and be okay at a little bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck me right in my asshole, dude. I'm just getting all discombobulated over here. So no, but like it's true, because how often are you going to run into somebody else who is in your 95th percentile who's going to put conflict in your life? Not very often, because it's someone who shares the same moral values, ethics, and humility that you have. So they're not gonna look at you like, hey bro, what's up, and start fucking with you. That's gonna be someone who's also carries himself with respect. So we're okay by being in the 85th, 95th percentile by being a jack of all trades, because we're only going to deal with people who are not proficient in life in general. Right. And we have to use those things. So it's really okay. Yeah. Just kind of agreeing with you here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of touching back on the family life thing, that's so important. And like you mentioned, it's super difficult. You have to be really, really good at time management and prioritizing things, right? I try and prioritize things in a certain way. I want to accomplish them in the day, and some things I just don't accomplish. But that's just going to happen because prioritizing family, prioritizing certain things, working out, shooting, whatever. But family, it's a challenge. I've had to adapt and learn over the last year how to maintain that balance, and I'm still learning. It's a tough challenge.
It is. Like I said, we've been doing that because we've been at this podcast almost a year now. Next month will be a year. And in the beginning, it kind of started as like, we're going out in my garage. We have someone coming over that's a buddy. We'll try. And then it's kind of evolved and it's gotten a little more serious, I guess is the word for it, where we're trying to be more professional with it, stuff like that. But that takes more time. And when you have a family that's, on a Sunday waiting on you to do things you should be doing with the family on a Sunday, that can be a challenge. But also I think communication is big. It's huge. And, like you said, time management. I have an app on my phone that my whole family has the calendar, and I put in when I have a podcast, stuff like that. Yeah. And I think communication's huge, and just the balance, managing time. And I've asked a few of our guests, like, how do you, especially guys that are way busier than I am, like, how do you manage all your time to be everything you need to be? That's a interesting thing to me.
It is honestly is simple. People convolute things to, I think, sell something to people sometimes.
Mhm.
You know, like, buy my package and I'll teach you how to do everything, get you motivated and all this other shit. Like, no. Sometimes the old simple way of having a calendar or a notebook and listing your shit out works. Like,
Yeah.
that's was it 2 weeks I'm a senior in college right now. Start my senior semester, and I have 2 kids. We don't have the majority of the time. And okay, I'm getting an archery and I still have to make time to go shoot with one of our friends. And I got to work out and, cook and clean the house. Like, there's a lot I got to do, but it's all going to happen. But it's only going to happen if I write it down. And that's not for everybody, maybe, but I say the majority of people, including myself, is writing a list down with times and dates. And if you miss those hard times a little bit, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up. But I think it's about getting close to those. And if you miss one at the end of the day, that's okay. We still hit 90% of this. I'd say if you had an 15% rule, you're probably okay on your calendar, hitting the things you think you need or want to do. Right. But we don't have to convolute anything. I think a calendar or a written list and the way you like to, write it out versus abiding to the calendar is a very proficient way of getting these tasks done,
Yeah, absolutely. It's right there in front of your face. There's no dodging it.
Yeah.
And, kind of touched on what you said about people just trying to sell shit. It's like, that's 75% of what you hear or you see online is people trying to just sell you some BS. I mean, and I'll kind of relate it to our business. We sell fitness products, but they aren't going to do a damn thing for you unless you're putting in work. Like there's no secret recipe. Our bands aren't going to do a damn thing if you're working out once a week, So it's actually going and accomplishing those tasks. And I do think putting them on paper is a very efficient way of doing that, because it can be too easy to just let time pass and let time slip.
Absolutely. Yeah. And with the bands too, sorry, not to digress too much, but so I do a lot of band work as well. And I've done it all for various reasons. So what got you guys really behind the amount of extensive band work you do?
Because bands they're just so versatile. And I've always lived a super busy life in law enforcement and SWAT. You just never you never have a real set schedule to go to the gym, and especially when you include kids in that, or your wife trying to do things with the family. So there's never a dedicated time to go to the gym for a majority of my adult life. And bands are great because you can just take them with you anywhere. And you can still get some resistance training with them. It's not going to be the equivalent of deadlifting 400 pounds, but you can get some resistance beyond just your body weight, which is why I like them so much. And I've also I started working out when I was 16. I'm 33 now. So over half my life working out. And the majority of that, I was doing it the wrong way. And I did damage to my joints for years of just lack of proper stretching, lack of recovery work. And bands are great for that too. So I realized I got to do something different, because I can barely move my arm above my head now, and I'm only in my late 20s. I got a problem here. And that's what bands are good for as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like the amount of officers I've trained with or trained, you see that is a huge moniker of their lifting style is can't get their arms above their heads. When when you're stuck in a patrol car in your vest, I mean, your erectors and everything else can only really support weight in a neutral position for so long before they're fatigued, and then you're rounded over, and then you have lordosis in your spine, and then you're stuck in that position. And so it's like getting a lot of guys like that, good overhead. It's like, how do I fix this? Should I put more load on them, or do we do a variety of banded work and mobility positions until they can do that? And banded work, like you said, less resistance. You're not going to overload the joints and your discs with bands. Unless you find some 6-inch fucking monster band or something, but you're trying to do good mornings with it. But and I've noticed even for myself, because on and off, because I started in weightlifting and then snatch, clean and jerk into CrossFit. And I think CrossFit gyms are coming around now, but for a long time they neglected so much chest work. Your extensors are always overloaded doing snatches, cleans, deadlifts, squats, everything, and notoriously neglected working on your chest. And if you just threw in 3 times a week banded work from various positions, whether it's, flies, drive, going into the incline and decline with just bands, like you can correct a lot of the issues we have with those T-spine being overloaded and having a lot of spasming going on in the muscles, right? But anyway, bands was my way out of that. Having a lot of back issues because my chest wasn't strong enough to compensate. I was like, well, fuck, I don't want to put any more load than I'm already doing. So just a ton of banded work. It's like, fuck, this really works. And I actually learned that from a West Side Barbell. They were like, they're all about bands. I was like, oh shit,
Yeah. And I think people who aren't that into fitness maybe don't know much about bands, but they're kind of starting to come around. They're kind of starting to catch on to the public how useful they are. But at first, if you're 22 and you see bands, you think some soccer mom doing Pilates or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a ton of application. Everything you just said, and you can use them in conjunction with weights if you want to. If you want to, provide more overload to the bar and you only have a certain amount of weights, you could do that with bands. But they're just great. But I completely agree with you. As you get older and you get more mature and your ego kind of evaporates, you learn that who cares about how much you're putting up on a deadlift or a squat or whatever. I mean, great, you want to get stronger, but that's not the end all be all. No. And doing these different movements to keep you mobile and to keep the longevity of your ability to lift or longevity of your, mobility, you got to do other work. There's different things you could do. It's not just bands. I mean, I know a guy who's 50 years old, SWAT team, been doing it his whole life, jacked, and he does exclusively yoga. And if you would have told me when I was 25 to do yoga, I would have laughed at you. But now I'm considering yoga.
Yeah, right.
So there's a lot of different things you could do.
Yeah. Yoga's, it's got a bad rep because of just that cultural stigma thing. But it is really cool. I did a ton of hot yoga because to me, same thing though. I was in my 20s, and when I got into yoga a lot, I was like, well, I don't want to go sit and this is gonna be like stupid. So it's like, go hot yoga because at least it's a challenge. I need a challenge, right? Because it's like 180,000 degrees in there. And everyone's in bikinis, so that's not bad. But dude, it was super challenging. And it helped me in a lot of ways, and not the first few didn't because I was overstretching, because you get so warm, you end up overstretching and it's not good. But after I kind of toned it down a little bit, super beneficial. And it makes you strong as fuck. It makes your core and your, just in your ass strong. So yeah, you're right. I think people just get over being uncomfortable, just be a little bit vulnerable and go do some yoga. It's definitely cool.
Yeah, put yourself in uncomfortable positions. That it goes for anything in life. That's the best way to grow, right?
For sure. So now that you said you're reserves, how does that work? Like, how often do you have to go do your thing?
So reserves, you have to go 20 hours a month. So it's 2 shifts a month, or you could break it up to 4 or 5 hour shifts, whatever you want to do. You just go in, take a car, and you run a beat. It depends what level of reserve you are. I forget the specific breakdown in California, what we have, but I'm like basically full sworn powers. I never relinquished those when I went from full-time to reserve. So I go work a beat for 5 hours or for a full shift, whatever I want to do, get my mandated hours. You got to go qual with a firearm. You got to do DTAC, all that standard training stuff, unpaid, but it helps kind of keep you sharp, which I like. I don't want to lose that, and you can lose it quickly. And also help keep a concealed carry permit in California, which is nice. But I'm not quite sure how much longer I'm going to be doing that. I'm moving from California to Arizona, so I'll have to start taking trips out to California to at least a couple times a month to keep doing that. So I'll have to kind of figure out if I can, again, balance the time to make that happen.
Gotcha.
Is it a business move?
Yes and no. I mean, I have no real family in California anymore. I don't like the politics in California. I don't have a job tying me down in California anymore. So I had a conversation with my wife. It's we've always wanted to move. For the last 10 years, we've been discussing moving, but there's always something that ties you down. So ultimately we decided her parents live in Arizona, and we struggle with childcare because she's believe it or not, she's the camera person for this business.
Oh, cool.
So whenever we go make videos or take pictures, we got to find childcare and figure out how to do that, which can be challenging and kind of be a hindrance to our ability to produce whatever we need to produce. So go out there and we'll have closer childcare, and there's desert all around, land we could buy,
Mhm.
produce content, things like that. But I'll still have to make trips out to California because I have a lot of connections out here. Tried to expand this brand beyond just, me, Alex. I want guys like Daniel Sarafian to be equally a part of the profile. Matt, former Green Beret, the operational athlete, equal parts of the profile. So I'll be having to make trips out to LA and things like that to maintain those connections.
Are you from California?
Yeah, born and raised.
Yeah,
born and raised. Unfortunately,
unfortunately, there's good and bad, just like anywhere. I think we have family. My wife's family's from California. I love to go down there and visit. I like that fast. They're in the LA area, fast paced lifestyle, but I only like it for a little bit of time. And coming from Idaho, we're both born and raised in Idaho, man. It's a totally different world. And where we live is growing because everybody from there's moving here now. But I don't know. I see the good and bad. Like, some people, like you said, don't like the politics. Some people don't like that fast paced lifestyle, the traffic, all that stuff. So it's like, you can move, you can go where you're going to be comfortable. And that's kind of the beauty of it. Unfortunately, a lot of those people are coming here.
Yeah. A lot of Californians are moving out and going to Arizona, going to Idaho, specifically Idaho. I've heard specifically Idaho. Sorry, guys.
Well, it's a good place to live. I don't blame them. I mean, there's a reason I stayed here. It's a great place to live.
As long as they don't bring their politics with them,
then
it's totally good to go.
Yeah, it's I think having different politics and different points of views is important. But that's why there is places like California that have one way of politics. There's places like Idaho or other, more red states, I guess, that are different than California. And I think that's cool. I think they should each kind of stay their way. And if you fit into those political beliefs, why not live in one of those places? There's nothing wrong with that. But
right. And it's not about necessarily assimilation, because it's not like everything we believe here is perfect, right? Exactly. Nothing ever is. It's not really about assimilation. It's just about finding common ground. Because we like a certain way of life. And if you disagree with that, or you hate guns because you don't understand it's a fucking people problem, like, have some introspection here. Is everybody else the problem, or are you the problem because your perspective is incorrect? And I've seen a lot of that here already. It's like, to stop talking about coming here, or stop moving here if you don't get the concept, or if you don't know how to fucking kill a beehive.
yeah.
Sorry,
that was the inside baseball there. No, but if you're leaving somewhere because of the politics, if that's what's pushing somebody out, then I don't understand why you'd go somewhere and then try and bring those beliefs with you. But then again, who knows? Maybe somebody really likes the politics, but they just like Idaho. So it's like, fuck it. Well, bring your politics then if that's what you like.
And that's what's been
enticing.
Because
each their own.
That's what's been enticing too, is you can sell a 1958 3-bedroom house there and come here and buy $1 million house in cash and 2 vehicles. So it's like, maybe for a lot of people, it's not really about the politics or way of life, or it's just about the way of life. Like, I want these aesthetics. I want these material things because I can do that. It's like, and I get that, because we all want to better ourselves in our lives. We want to be in a better place. So I totally respect that. I can, empathize with that, but please, it's like, just try to see it from our point of view, because there's a lot of good people here, and we're not all stupid rednecks.
There's good people everywhere. There's good people in California. There's good people in Arizona.
I think a lot of the times we kind of have a divided mindset, right? You think everybody from Idaho, I would assume that somebody who is a more left-leaning politics would think everybody from Idaho is a right-wing, whatever.
Right.
And then people on the right think everybody from California is on the far left. And it's just not the case. I think there's, like you said, there's good people everywhere.
Yeah.
Most of the time, most things we agree upon. There are certain things that we don't agree upon. But yeah, I mean, I do agree with what you're saying, that financially, being able to sell your house in California with $1 million and go out to Idaho, that is probably a major determining incentive for a lot of people.
For sure. And we see that a lot. Like the subdivision we live in, we live in the same neighborhood. We have a lot of people from out of state that have moved here, and the houses in the subdivision are fucking expensive, especially if you're from Idaho. And people can move here from somewhere like California and pretty much pay off the house and still have money left over. And I don't blame them for doing that. do it too if I was them, probably.
No, dude, if I was like, man, I'm just gonna go move to Missoula, Montana tomorrow, I could do the same shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, so I get it.
But yeah, and like you were just saying, a lot of us, we've pushed that on here so many times. We all have so much more in common than people paint it out to be. And that's whether you're liberal or you're conservative or whatever. I mean, well, you can find common ground somewhere with people. And I have friends on both sides of the political spectrum, my family on both sides of the political spectrum, and I love them all. You know, it's like, you don't have to, it's kind of dying down now that the elections and all that have passed. But like when people center their whole personality around a fucking politician, and it's like, that's everything, is my favorite it's like, fuck all the politicians. Like, why is that your whole personality? There's way more important shit in life than who you think should be sitting in a fucking building in Washington, D.C. It's crazy.
Yeah. 90% everybody agrees upon. There's the 10% of things that we disagree upon.
Yeah.
That 10% is what's highlighted the most.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that 10%, I think most of us can sit down and have a conversation with somebody who disagrees with us, and it can be a pleasant conversation.
What actually makes it harder for everybody is when you don't have the conversation.
Yeah.
If you're going to be neurotic and just be like, oh, I hate that motherfucker. Like, say you're like at an event or something. If you don't go talk to people, you're just going to propagate that. Go up to someone you think is different and shake their hand. Like, how's it going, dude? Like, that literally is breaking down those barriers. Those neurotic barriers of, oh, they're different, we're different. Like, no, go say hi to that person, you know. Just be a human being, you know. That's awesome.
Well, so I guess, because I know you got places to go, we can wrap this up soon. So what are like your future plans with Iron Infidel? What's in the forecast for you guys?
You know, well, we're going to stay our lane, which is fitness. As far as our product line, we're going to be expanding the products. My job specifically is the marketing arm of it. So I handle all of that stuff. For future plans, I plan on expanding the team. So we're bringing on Daniel Sarafian, who's a former UFC fighter, the operational athlete, former Green Beret, and we got somebody else who's going to be more involved in the content creation. Like I mentioned before, I don't want this to be just me. It's not the Alex show. I want more people involved that have different skill sets that can provide different information to people that I don't and I can't provide. So diversifying it in that way, I think will help. And then just kind of flying by the seat of our pants, man. Like I said, we're new at this. We established in 2019. So not exactly experts by any means, but keep pushing forward and hopefully it keeps growing. Hopefully it keeps being successful and see where it goes. We've developed a lot of great relationships with a lot of great brands. Howitzer Clothing, I love those guys. I know the owner, know the CEO, super pro LE first responder military clothing brand that we've been working with a lot lately. So we're going to keep doing that. And we have some cool products coming up that I just can't quite talk about yet, but they're pretty cool. I mean, they're not like groundbreaking or anything. They're not going to change your life, but they're just pretty cool.
Well, like I said a while ago, you're doing something right. I mean, that like social media doesn't mean everything, but it does mean something. When you have a following, like you guys are growing, it means you're doing something right. People are paying attention. And so that's really cool to see. And I mean, I'll be honest, I'm fairly new to following you guys. And which is good for you because that means more people are paying attention, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But just following you guys for the past few months or whatever it's been to see what you're doing and see you guys grow. I like to see that. And then after talking to you, like, seem like a good dude. That's a thing on this podcast. These good fucking people. And I like to see good people succeed.
Yeah. And it's I think a lot of people are paying attention because we're also in this kind of wave. And I hope it's not just like a period wave. I hope it kind of keeps on going. Like where people are like, I really want to get in self-defense with firearms. Oh, I want to Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I want to get into, I need to get more fit, because COVID kicked my ass or whatever it is. Like a lot of people are simultaneously looking in all these realms and you guys are doing all of it. So it's like, wow, people have a hub to go to get access to information from a few of these things and supplements if they need to add to that, and good personalities, right? Like I said earlier, basically the way you guys present yourself isn't a toxic personality at all. So I think it's also a good niche to have because that's three of the biggest things people are getting into right now. Fitness and self-defense and looking at their diets and the way of life, So yeah, I don't see it going back down unless people all of a sudden start hating all those things. But you know, like fuck fitness, man. Like
Who needs it?
yeah.
Who needs it? No, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think they're all equally as important as one another. And you don't have to be the best at anything, right? You just have to be better than you were yesterday.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's kind of the mindset that I have, or be better, go to bed better than you were when you woke up. And whether it's as a father, as a your fitness level, or a fighter or shooter or whatever, find a way to improve in whatever you're doing, and you're heading in the right direction. And that's all that matters. Who cares what your next door neighbor is doing? Who cares what me or anybody on the internet's doing?
Mhm.
If you can find ways to improve yourself, then you're on the right track. So
Yes.
if we can help you do that in any way that we can, then that's a win for me. Makes all the time and effort worth it.
Perfect. Go ahead and let our listeners know, where can they find everything you guys are doing?
Yeah, so our website where we sell our merchandise is ironinfidel.com. Super simple. And we have a YouTube profile, which is Iron Space Infidel. And then our Instagram is Iron_Infidel_. And we just started TikTok. We got one follower on TikTok.
Yes.
So
I'll follow you with our TikTok. We have one too.
sweet. We put out our first video yesterday. So TikTok is same Iron_Infidel_. See if you can be the second follower on our profile.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it right now. And I'll put links to all your guys' stuff in the show notes for this, so people can go find it
Yeah,
easily. And
appreciate that.
yeah, and I'm not even joking right now. I'm opening TikTok to follow you guys.
The ticks.
But yeah, dude, we appreciate you coming on. I'm glad we made this happen, and it's kind of been in the works for a couple months, but we got it done.
No, absolutely. The pleasure really is mine that you guys would even consider having me on your. I don't know what you got going on. I love what you guys have going on. I love that you're bringing on good dudes. The theme of the podcast. I appreciate it. You guys are going places for sure.
Well, we appreciate that for sure.